He probably said something slick about Jay-Z 2 months ago, maybe. I'm just guessing, I don't know. Jay hasn't spoken to him in 10 years. He's still talking about Jay. He'll still say something slick about Biggs. These don't say nothing to them.
Jay never respected Cam at all. Yeah, remember, he knew him when he was young. That's why he was so offended, because he was a little nigga. To Jay, Cam was a little nigga. And Cam even said he little nigga him every time he saw him. Pause. I just never seen homeboy explain himself.
There's a reason people can't stop talking about the fallout between Jay-Z, Dame Dash, and Cameron, because no matter how many years pass, the story never really dies. It just mutates, drags in new names, and forces the public to pick a side all over again. And now, for the first time in years, Jay-Z's perspective on what actually happened is resurfacing, painting a picture that might flip the entire narrative on its head. But before we get into it, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss when we drop the next wave of celebrity revelations, because trust me, the details we're about to unpack are as wild as any scandal you've ever heard.
Jay-Z, what do you regret about y'all situation? Do you think it should have been more? You think you guys could have had more together?
Yeah, all that, but we were friends, so I just was more hurt as a friend. Like, how would you feel if your brother just betrayed you for money?
Now let's dive into this story that's part betrayal, part missed opportunity, and part ego battle that ended up shaping hip-hop forever. To start, we have to acknowledge the strange persistence of Dame Dash, a man who, even after more than a decade of silence from Jay-Z, still manages to drag his former partner's name into every interview, every podcast appearance, every late-night rant. Whether he's firing off accusations about betrayal, painting himself as the visionary who was sabotaged, or mocking Jay's character, Dame just won't let go. And what makes it even more surreal is that Jay has taken the exact opposite approach. He doesn't engage, doesn't clap back, doesn't even acknowledge Dame's words, as if the feud is beneath him.
Yeah, I think in the beginning it's about you and your circle. Okay. Right? You take your circle, you got the people that grind with you every day and share your dreams and slept on the floor with you, and you know, and then you make it out. And then you look and he's like, okay, what else? Right? What else? Like, how else can I be of service? You achieve these goals that you thought were, you know, unattainable in the beginning, and you achieve them, and then you look around and you say, okay, how can we duplicate this? The reason we created Roc Nation was to be able to say, okay, this is all the information we gathered. Here it is, Rihanna. Here it is, Kanye. You know, whomever, right? Like, and just like here's the information. So if we achieve those goals at 36, you do it at 26.
That silence has only fueled the public's curiosity, forcing everyone to wonder who was really in the wrong. Because if Jay refuses to even speak on it, maybe there's more to the story than we think. But while Dame's voice has been the loudest, his circumstances tell a very different tale. In 2025, the once untouchable co-founder of Roc-A-Fella Records filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, revealing a financial implosion so complete it stunned even his critics. Imagine this, a man who once lived like a mogul, controlling music, fashion, film, and culture, now claiming to have only $4,000 in assets to his name. No house, no car, no business empire, just a $500 cell phone, a few clothes, a couple of firearms, and $100 in cash. Meanwhile, his debts stretch to the heavens.
I wasn't a part of any of that, and the karma happens. But the thing I didn't understand is I was like, I know I'm not that. And because of the moral challenge and him choosing one way, I knew morally we weren't the same. So to me, Roc-A-Fella was defunct. It was over. I couldn't f with it. It was something that to me was just like, not to say unforgivable, but I couldn't understand it. You know what I'm saying? And then I didn't understand how people didn't, I thought, well, the people aren't gonna have that.
Over $19 million in taxes, $647,000 in domestic support, massive amounts owed to his ex-wife Rachel Roy, and the mothers of his other children. It's not just broke, it's broke in public, with court filings laid bare for everyone to read. The contrast between Dame's swagger and his reality has become the ultimate irony. A man who carries himself like he still runs the industry, but can't even pay off the judgments stacking against him. And those judgments aren't just financial mistakes, they're the product of Dame's own mouth. One of the most damaging examples is his feud with filmmaker Josh Weber, where Dame was hit with a $4 million defamation ruling after blasting him publicly over their dispute about the film Dear Frank. Dame called him a thief, accused him of stealing his work, and laughed off the legal system. The court didn't laugh. They ordered him to pay millions he didn't have, and he still hasn't paid to this day. And if that wasn't enough, Dame is now targeting Cameron himself with a lawsuit that seems more like a cry for relevance than a legitimate business move. He's demanding $300 million, accusing Cam of harassment, defamation, and sabotage, even framing it as his Godfather moment, claiming he knew betrayal would come from one of his brothers, but never expected it to be Cam. That level of melodrama says a lot about how Dame sees himself, not as a businessman who lost his way, but as a betrayed king forced to take desperate measures. Yet here's where the story twists, because while Dame is out here suing and ranting, Jay finally dropped the perspective fans have been begging to hear, and it cuts through the noise in a way only Jay can. According to him, people like Dame don't hold grudges because of something he actively did to them, it's because they feel entitled to his success, to his help, to his empire. As Jay put it, nobody ever says he wronged them, they just say he didn't do enough for them. Think about that. The entire narrative Dame has pushed for years, that Jay betrayed him, that Jay abandoned the culture for money, that Jay sold out, collapses if Jay is right. Because then it's not betrayal, it's entitlement. And the receipts back Jay's claim. When Dame was spiraling financially, Jay offered him $1.5 million to buy back his share of Roc-A-Fella. Cam and Maz even stepped in, offering another $1 million to bail him out of debt. And what did Dame do? He turned them all down, convinced he could land a bigger deal. He gambled on imaginary numbers, $6 million, maybe more, and ended up with nothing. The arrogance of turning down real money from people who actually cared about him, only to end up bankrupt, shows just how self-destructive Dame's pride became. Jay wasn't the one who ruined Dame, Dame ruined Dame, and the Cameron saga only proves that further, because this entire beef started years earlier, when Dame pushed for Cam to become vice president of Roc-A-Fella, a move Jay saw as an attack on his authority. Jay never rated Cam as an equal, never saw him as a serious threat lyrically or musically, but Dame forcing Cam into a position of power made it clear this was about control. Cam even admitted he jumped the gun, announcing his promotion publicly while Jay was away, only to return to icy stares and erased verses. From Jay's perspective, this wasn't about hating Cam, it was about Dame playing chess with the wrong pieces, trying to stack power against him in his own empire. And that's when their visions fully split. Dame claimed he was for the culture, about keeping Roc-A-Fella raw and street, but Jay was already thinking global. He was making billionaire moves before anyone else even saw the horizon, setting up Roc Nation, building corporate alliances, plotting longevity while Dame was still trying to posture as the ultimate hustler. Their partnership was doomed the moment those visions diverged. Dame still insists Jay betrayed him by teaming up with Lear Cohen, the same executive he despised, but Jay has been clear, if an outsider could break them up, then their bond was never real in the first place. And that cold truth stings, because it makes Dame's entire narrative of loyalty and betrayal sound hollow. Today, Dame still jumps from apology to attack like a man who can't decide if he wants peace or attention. One day he's posting rants about Cam and 50 Cent, the next he's apologizing to Harlem, claiming he wants unity and respect, only to spin back into lawsuits and insults. It's a cycle that makes him look desperate, not powerful. Jay doesn't even need to say much, because Dame's actions speak louder than anything. And when 50 Cent himself brushed off Dame's apology, calling his lawsuit fake and clowning him online, it showed the industry has stopped taking him seriously. Dame isn't feared anymore, he's mocked. And the saddest part is that a lot of Dame's anger seems rooted in the gap between who he was and who he is now. He built his image as a mogul, the untouchable boss who called the shots, but that image doesn't match his reality anymore. The bankruptcy filings, the lawsuits, the bridges burned, they all stripped him of the clout he once had, yet he still walks into interviews like he owns the room, still speaks like Jay owes him, still lashes out like he's the victim of betrayal. Maybe once upon a time fans could believe that. Maybe there was a moment where Jay really did make decisions behind his back that felt like a betrayal. But after 2 decades of watching Dame sabotage himself, lose deals, reject lifelines, and turn allies into enemies, the public is shifting. The sympathy is gone, replaced by a recognition that Jay-Z's silence wasn't guilt, it was wisdom. Because what would arguing with Dame have done except drag him into the chaos? Instead, Jay focused on building an empire that made him the first billionaire rapper in history, while Dame drowned in debt, lawsuits, and bitterness. And that contrast is the real betrayal, not of Dame by Jay, but of Dame by himself. The man who once prided himself on vision couldn't see past his own ego. The man who claimed loyalty weaponized betrayal whenever it suited him. And the man who thought he'd always be on Jay's level is now watching from the sidelines as Jay sits at the top of an empire Dame helped build but couldn't sustain. So when you really step back, the story isn't about Jay-Z being cold or ruthless. It's about Dame Dash's refusal to evolve, his inability to accept help when he needed it most, and his obsession with painting himself as the victim long after everyone else moved on. Jay finally revealed his side, and it's devastating in its simplicity. He never betrayed anyone. They just expected him to carry them when he was already carrying himself. And that's a truth Dame can't seem to face, because it means he wasn't betrayed by his brother for money, he betrayed himself for pride. And yet, even with all this history, Dame still tries to spin the narrative like he was the one wronged, like he's the only person who truly stood for the culture, while Jay sold out for corporate deals. But the receipts keep piling up against that version of the story, because time and time again Dame had opportunities to stabilize his situation and chose pride instead of practicality. When Cam and Mace literally offered to wire him $1 million to keep him afloat, he stalled, gambled, and let the deal evaporate. When Jay personally offered him millions for his stake, he turned it down out of spite, only to end up with nothing. Even the industry veterans he once mocked are now the ones who outlasted him, while Dame's reputation as a loudmouth with nothing to back it up has become a punchline. The irony is brutal. The same man who preached about ownership, independence, and building empires now has nothing to his name but lawsuits, debt, and a reputation for burning every bridge he ever walked on. And when you contrast that with Jay, who methodically turned every step into legacy, the outcome feels less like betrayal and more like inevitability. Because at the end of the day, the truth Jay finally revealed isn't just about Dame or Cam, it's about the psychology of entitlement that destroys so many relationships in the industry. People aren't mad because Jay stole from them or wronged them. They're mad because they expected him to save them, to carry them, to hand over pieces of his empire as if he owed them. That's not betrayal, that's survival. Jay's silence all these years wasn't guilt, it was discipline. And that discipline made him the most powerful rapper alive, while Dame is left filing lawsuits that no one believes in and posting apologies that no one takes seriously. The story of Roc-A-Fella isn't just about music, it's a cautionary tale about ego, vision, and knowing when to adapt. Jay adapted, Dame didn't. And now the only stage left for Dame Dash is the court of public opinion, where the verdict has already been decided. He lost everything, not because Jay betrayed him, but because he could never get out of his own way.